Hello and you're very welcome to the JMAC Podcast. I'm John Man. Of course, the podcast is brought to you by YourGridge.com. Use the promo code JMAC Podcast to get 15% off on the website. And today I'm joined by former Mayo footballer Conor Mortimer to look into this weekend's action and all that comes with it. So delighted to have Conor on board today. How are you keeping, Conor?
All good, John, yeah. Tipping away. And yourself?
All good, sir. All good, thank God. Nice Monday to start the week. And I suppose, how's life itself? All good?
Yeah, all good. Not too bad now. Tipping away. I'm busy with kids and football and work, everything. But all good, man. Just, yourself, the usual.
The usual crack, the usual banter. And I suppose, how's the football coaching going? Obviously, you've gone in with the Lusk, yeah.
Start next week. Our first game is next weekend. So, first game of the league. Had a few challenges. So, yeah, look, it's going well. Good numbers and good commitment to it. So, yeah, look, it's enjoyable and it's good, yeah. Good to be involved.
Oh yeah, brilliant stuff. The very best of luck with it. Anyway, I suppose we can crack on to this weekend's action. Obviously, loads of games this weekend. Obviously, the hurling took place last weekend, so there's obviously no football last weekend. So of course, it was a big miss, but it's back in earnest this week. So of course, we're really looking forward to it. I suppose I can whack through for starters the Division 4 and Division 3 fixtures. So on Saturday in Division 4, you have Wicklow against London and Auckland at 1 p.m. And then in Division 3, you have Tipperary against Antrim in FBD Semple Stadium at 6 p.m. of course on Saturday. And then on Sunday in Division 4, you have Sligo against Waterford in Markfitz Park at 1 p.m. Carlow against Laois in Netwatch Cullen Park at 2 p.m. and then Wexford v Leitrim in Chadwick's Wexford Park at 2 p.m. And then moving on to Division 3, you have Fermanagh against Down in Edinburgh at 1 p.m. and that game will be live on BBC iPlayer. And then Cavan against Longford in Kingspan Breffni Park at 2 p.m. and then Westmeath against Offaly in TG Cusack Park at 2 p.m. So that's Division 3 and Division 4 games wrapped up, and really looking forward from this weekend. I suppose we could touch on Division 2 next more with the meeting off. Derry against Meath in Owen Beg at 5 p.m. on Saturday, and the game will be live on RT2 on the RTD player. So I suppose more going into this game. Two teams in very good form. Obviously, Rory Gallagher flying with Derry as usual at the minute. Obviously, Colin Rourke, 2 great wins. So that's a watering game in prospect.
Yeah, look at Roscommon, in fairness, have had, they had 2 very... Who are we talking about, Roscommon and...
we are talking about Derry and Meath.
Oh, Colin O'Rourke. I thought you said Davy Burke.
Yeah. Both, yeah.
I think, Derry, the one thing with Gallagher's teams, like they want to be winning every game they play, and they don't really look at the league as anything different in relation to preparing for championship and stuff. They go all out with huge intensity in all their games, and Derry obviously having the club lads back as well will be a big help to them. They are a strong side. They had a very good run last year. They want to kind of keep momentum moving forward. I suppose Meath, on the other hand, they've had a couple of good performances as well. They won away in Cork, which is tough. And obviously they're all going to get a bounce under Cullum as well. So, but the one thing is, and it's kind of evident in a lot of league games, away league games are very tough. And Doonbeg is a long way up from Meath up to Derry. So I think Meath have it all to do to get a result in that game.
Absolutely. I suppose what maybe have, like, in contrast, what have you made of Colin Rourke start with Meath? Obviously a lot of, I suppose, pressure probably putting himself going into the hot seat. But I suppose what have you made of Colin's start so far?
Look, he's done well. I mean, they've won their couple of games, regardless on how performances are alluding. But the win away to Cork was very good. They were very good in parts of that. And that's down to, I suppose, the way O'Rourke sets his teams, and he has them kind of buzzing around the place at the moment. It was always going to be a big, they've been looking for him for a long time to get involved at that level. And I think, like a lot of people, were probably surprised that he took the role. He's not a spring chicken, but his experience is invaluable. And you can see a lot of those Meath guys respect him, and a lot of people in the county would respect him. So, by all credit to him, Colin is a nice guy, and he deserves success as well. So, but the league is a good barometer for Meath, because ultimately he'll come in against probably Dublin to decide when it comes to championship, and that's your real barometer where you're at. You know, some years you can have very good leagues, and other years you mightn't be as successful, but you'll have a good run in the championship. And Meath in the last few years haven't had that championship run, so that'll be the real pinnacle for O'Rourke later down the line. But you know, as far as his start, he's obviously had a very good start, and they won their couple of games. So I mean, can't be any better than that, really, can he?
I suppose more for your bet man, who would you be putting a few pound on this weekend?
I'd have to go with Derry. It's a away game. It's going to be very tough for me the way. And like all teams this early in the league, they have a lot of young guys starting as well and giving them game time and stuff. And you look at the couple of lads that Derry brought back from after the club championship, like they're, you know, the likes of Glass and these guys are, you know, they're high octane players and very early in the league. I mean, you would have thought that they got a bit of a break, but you know, obviously they wanted to go back in and keep performing. And that's the thing with Gallagher. He's constantly driving, and he's you know, I know it's a bit of both. Like the manager wants you back playing, and you probably want to go back playing as well. And you know that, but it's a bit early in the year. Them guys have had a long run. You know, it'd be very hard to see them buzzing around 3 or 4 months down the road without any break.
Yeah, just it's interesting topics at the minute. Player welfare definitely comes into question there more. But look, I think we have to look after our stars. But I suppose it's for another day's conversation. I suppose we can move on to Division 1 Saturday, the big game this weekend. More obviously Mayo against Kerry in Hastings, McHale Park at 7:30, and the game of course will be live on TG4. More, I suppose. Need to say more about this clash?
Big game, big game. You know, and look at it, I suppose over the years, you know, we haven't the best record in Castlebar, like there's no question, and particularly in league. You know, it's not a fortress by any stretch, but I suppose Kerry coming off in All-Ireland last year, I know they didn't win their first game away, but you know, they won well last week. And obviously Mayo, from what it seems from the outside, there's a huge reliance on Ryan O'Donoghue, and even at this early stage, to be the main performer. That for me is probably a little worry. You know, if he gets good players will always get a few scores, don't get me wrong, but to be fully dominant for 70 minutes it's only going to get harder the better he plays. So I think it's probably, you know, the rest of the guys obviously need to step it up a gear. You know, Mayo have been solid, they've been decent in their games, there's no question. They were good last week against Armagh for probably 50 minutes. And probably the last 10 or 15, if you look at a few decisions went against us, don't get me wrong, but that's sport. You know, any team that gets a run on you, you know, you're 4 or 5 up, and then the team you're playing gets 5 points on the trot or whatever it was. It's something to be worked on and not to let happen again, because no matter what kind of way you look at it, I mean, at that level, teams will punish you. You know, we were probably a better team than Armagh last weekend, but didn't get the result. Probably lucky to get a draw in the end. Other clients will tell you we probably should have won the game, but credit to Armagh as well. But I think this game at the weekend, you know, it's going to be a good welcome for Kerry to Castlebar. They're All-Ireland champions. A lot of the Mayo guys will be relishing a cut at them. And I think Mayo will have enough for me. I think Kerry aren't that long back either. So I think all roads lead to a Mayo win. I think in a very close game now, I might add. It's not going to be a gap in the scores. I think it's going to be very, very tight, but I think Mayo should have enough at home.
I suppose, Conor, like, is this the game where we see, you know, Paddy and David Clifford starting? Probably not David, I'd say Paddy possibly. You know, I don't know if Clifford been on the bench yet for them coming back, but same for them lads, as I mentioned with the Derry guys. I mean, they all need a break. You know, and I think in the league, the likes of Kerry, and you can see what happened in Dublin last year, you can't really relax. You know, we win 2 or 3 games and keep ourselves safe, because sometimes the league, you know, can take on a different life, and all teams start winning a game or 2 here, and then that puts you under pressure. So I think, you know, Conor has to manage that balance of when them lads come back. You know, I know Paddy came on obviously last week and David hasn't been involved, but you know, he might be ready for 10 or 15 minutes, but I don't think you'll see him starting now. I suppose, Conor, just kind of get your thoughts on Mayo's new project under the stewardship of Kevin McStay and Stephen Rochford. I suppose, do you believe these are meant to take Mayo football forward?
I do. I think their style of football has shown already. We're only a couple of games in. It's direct. There's kick passing. There's good distance hand passing. There's movement up top. They've used Aidan O'Shea full forward, and they've given him decent ball. We've runners from everywhere, even losing Lee at the back. Oisin Mullen as well. It hasn't really shown as of yet. Got a good bunch of young guys in there as well involved, and yeah, I think that they're a breath of fresh air to Mayo football, and I think, you know, I've always said that I've great time for that management team that's there currently, and I sincerely think they'll be successful.
Hopefully so, Mort. Hopefully so. I suppose, who's your money on this weekend, Mayo? Yeah, tight game, but I think they should probably have enough, and home advantage is always a plus. The point or two anyway, you know. Super stuff. That's going to be an unbelievable game this weekend. We're really looking forward to it. I suppose moving on to Division 2 action on Sunday, Mort. It'll be Clare against Kildare in Cusack Park, Ennis at 2 p.m. It's not getting any easier for Kildare in this league, Mort, is it?
It's not, and I think that the pressure is all on Kildare. I think the pressure is all on Glen Ryan for this weekend as well, after they got an awful mauling last week. You know, Cork obviously are a decent side, but I think it was 16 or 17 points in the difference in a home game. And I know I've been talking to a few people from Kildare that are at the game, and when your home fans kind of get a bit frustrated, and it's kind of reminiscent of what happened in previous years. You know, and I think even Glen Ryan said he didn't know what happened, and that's probably not what you expect to hear from your manager. I mean, it's your job to ensure it doesn't happen. And I think, you know, Clare are obviously a proud football team, as they are hurling. Cusack Park is a tough place to play. It's a big open pitch. It's a good field. But, you know, I think this is probably a game that Kildare will look at to get a performance and get a victory. I think they have quality footballers. There's no question about it. Whatever happened in that Cork game, it didn't click. And you'll find when a team gets a run on you in Division 1 or 2, it's very difficult to claw it back. Their confidence was obviously a little bit low as well, obviously, because Cork kind of ran away with that game. So, but, you know, Clare will fancy their chances as well. There's no question about it. But I'd have to go for a Kildare win in this one because they need it more.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They absolutely do, because if they don't, I think they'll be in serious bother. And then we'll move on to Louth against Limerick in RD at 2 p.m. I suppose, like Kildare, Limerick could be badly doing with the points here, Mort.
Yeah, look, it's you know, I think it was Dublin that beat them last week. Correct me if I'm wrong. But,
Dublin bet Limerick, yep.
Convincingly enough at that. So I think the, you know, Louth, to be fair, I think, you know, they're a good football team. Like, I know Mickey's still doing work with them up there, but we'll have to rewind that there, because I don't really know how they've got on either of them two teams in the first two games.
Yeah, Louth have obviously got their wins from last week. Say again, Mort.
Louth have won twice.
Yeah, won twice, yeah. And then
Limerick.
Limerick had their first two games. Limerick played Derry, got bet by Derry, and then got bet by Dublin last week. So Limerick badly need a win.
Right. So basically, look at it. Louth obviously have 2 wins. Or Limerick have 0. So it's a pressure game for Limerick as well. They need to obviously get the 2 points to give themselves a chance of probably staying in the division, even though we're only 3 games in. I know Dublin played them last week, and I believe they performed well, Limerick. Obviously, Dublin turned the screw when they needed to, but, you know, I think it's you'd have to fancy Louth in their home pitch. You know, Louth are a good side, although I know what's his name? They're just crucial.
Right. Or Kieran Byrne.
He's a big loss for them. Big loss. Big player for Louth. He's a huge loss for the year. He's a fabulous football player, and that's going to be difficult for them to replace. But you still fancy them at home. You know, Limerick to Louth is a good trek up as well. So I'd go for the home team in this one again.
Super stuff. Limerick could be in a lot of butter after this weekend if they don't pick up points there, but it'll be an interesting game to keep an eye on. And then we have Cork against Dublin in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 3:45, and of course the game will be live on TG Car. Huge game for both teams, huge game for Cork, especially at home. But you have to be looking at Dublin again, Mort, don't you?
Look at you do, but Cork have confidence after last week. Cork played relatively well against Meath in parts. Obviously last weekend then did a big win away in Kildare. But Dublin's main goal probably for the first 4 months this year is to get out of Division 2, get themselves back into Division 1. They're taking these games very, very seriously. I was talking to a friend of mine last week, Dave Feeney. He's reffing their in-house games, and he tells me they're pretty much like championship preparation games. Boys biting at the bit to get onto that team and onto that squad for game day. Because they see, obviously, with the likes of Mannion and McCaffrey back, they see an All-Ireland at the end of this year again. That's the belief that they have. So these games are all preparation for them, and they've performed well for what's expected of them so far in the league. The first game against Kildare, they had a lot of work done, and they still managed to win. Whereas Kildare had a lot of work done, and they were disappointed that they didn't get the points. So it's kind of a close-ish league to a degree, but I think if Dublin have a good start in Cork, they will win the game. But the one thing with Cork is, and that's the thing about Cork the last 4 or 5 years that they probably need to get out of their system, is you just don't know what Cork team you're going to get on the day. When they perform well, they're excellent. When they perform badly, they're horrific. There's no kind of midline. And I think that's what the likes of Kevin Walsh being involved there as well will bring to it, to get that barometer and that performance line where it's at a good level all the time. They might not win every game, but they're not getting hockeyed, or they're not unperforming for 50 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever it may be. And one thing, with Dublin, they will punish you straight away if Cork aren't on the ball at the weekend. I fancy Dublin to win the game. Because I think their mindset is in a little bit of a different place. They're very eager to get out of Division 2, and I think they'll get 2 points on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like that more from an early onset. Will be interesting. Can Cork put up a big fight, especially at home? And I suppose we will move on to Division 1 action in round 3 on Sunday. You've Galway against Tyrone in Tuam Stadium at 2:45. And of course, the game will be live on TG Car, the fair coverage, and then live on the TG Car app. So all to look forward to this weekend, Bart.
Yeah, look at Tyrone. Haven't got points yet.
Tyrone bet Donegal the last day, yeah.
But they won their game. They've won 1-2. So the last one I watched them against Roscommon, very disappointing. Now Roscommon, in fairness, were obviously on the bounce. But Galway, for me, Conor, huge loss. Yeah. And part of that issue that the one thing with Galway, and I watched them in Castlebar in the first game, I thought they were very good. They were probably better than Mayo on the night, and would have been very disappointed not to get the points. And the likes of Shane Walsh to come back in probably would have tilted me. They're probably the favourites to win Connacht at that point, knowing what they have and what they're about. Tuam Stadium is a very hard place to play for away teams. Tyrone are dogged enough too, but Tyrone need to win. I think both teams need to win this game, actually. I think it's probably the Galway draw last week. You see that?
Galway were beat by 1 point against Roscommon.
Oh, they're beat by Roscommon, yeah. So that's it's a must win effectively for Galway to give them a better opportunity of keeping up high in that division. And look, it's a good test as well, because Tyrone, people say that they become a bad team overnight. No, they didn't. But the problem with Tyrone, there's so many guys that they had 2 years ago gone for various different reasons. And I think they're still this current team is still trying to find its identity of what kind of team they are. And I think we didn't see it. Are they ruthless tacklers? Are they offensive? Are they runners? Are they scorers? There's so many different variations to what they can do, and I think they're kind of lost in the middle. I haven't watched the first couple of games, but Galway home again. I fancy Galway to probably win it. It'll be very, very close, but it's one of them games, like, you can't really rule anything out with Tyrone. Like, they've the tendency to perform really, really well as well. Particularly when they're really under the cosh. I think that's good Tyrone teams when they're under pressure. But Galway will be expecting to have a big home crowd as well, and I probably just sneaky one for Galway.
Yeah, I just fancy Tyrone in that particular game. I think the loss of Damien Comer, Shane Walsh still travelling at the minute, down a few more personnel, so it's just fancy Tyrone to shade it, or even maybe a comfortable win for Tyrone. We'll wait and see on Sunday. And then big game here, Monaghan against Donegal in Clonus, 1:45. Huge game for both teams. Monaghan badly need points, Mort.
They do. I was talking to Kieran Hughes last week there. He's out injured, probably out for a little while yet. They're still lacking a few players that at this point. Mac isn't on the good age of 30 either. He's coming in and out for games as well. They don't really, and the new manager obviously with Vinny Kerry as well. Good pedigree of football up there. Donegal, I think, probably lucky to win the first game. I know McBurty got a massive point. Kerry, they're talking about refereeing decisions and stuff, but it'll be it's a big derby game as well. But I don't know how these teams going to, I know they probably both need wins at this point as well, but Monaghan probably more so. But will they reveal their full hand? Obviously, with looking at Ulster teams playing each other, don't generally give away their full hands even in league games. But as you say, Monaghan are more in need of the win. And Dublin or Donegal, you can see even last week there's a bit of rumpus about Carl Lacey up there. I don't think all is well in the county football circles, regardless of the senior team. Obviously they have a new manager in, Paddy Carr, as well, and is he the man to lead Donegal? I'm not one to say, but I can't really give opinion on what the players think of it, but he's there to do a job as well, and that first win they had with against Kerry would obviously have been a big boost for them. But I think what's come out in the last week, obviously with as I mentioned, with Carl and his team kind of leaving off as well. For a successful team, to be a successful team, you kind of need your county board, your committees, and all that in situ, all kind of in a line and agreeable on certain stuff. You generally, when things are kind of falling apart in the background, things don't tend to be as rosy when it comes to playing senior football matches. I haven't seen it over the years, so I think due to the fact that Monaghan needed a little bit more, I'll go with Monaghan.
Yeah, very tight game expected down in Clonus on Sunday, but looking forward to it. Both teams do need wins, and both teams need to pick up a bit of form, because it's quite worrying at times for both counties. But we'll wait and see on Sunday. And then last game of the weekend, Mort, it's Roscommon against Armagh in Dr. Hyde Park, 1:45. And of course, the game will be live on TG Car. That's a mouth-watering game in Prospect, Mort.
Yeah, to be fair, and I haven't watched both teams. Armagh, like even last week against Mayo, their intensity levels are so high. They're I think someone said McGeeney's 9 years over them now. It's quite a long time to have players buzzing around for you, which he seems to have again this year. Roscommon under Davy Burke have been very, very good. Play a good brand of football. It's always good to have a new manager in there with different ideas and a different voice. They had a great win against Tyrone. That last kick against Galway was massive last week as well, and that gives them a huge boost. So it's a very tight game to call. What I will say, I think they probably got a little bit lucky with a couple of goals against Tyrone. Armagh will bring the same intensity, and they won't cough up as many mistakes. So I think it might be a step too far for us coming this one. I think Armagh, their confidence is high, even after a draw at the weekend with Mayo, and they would have felt they should have won it. That their what's the word? Their momentum in the last 5 or 10 minutes should carry them into this game again straight away. They'll get at you from the off, and I think it'll be difficult for us coming. They have the advantage, obviously, of being at home. If the weather conditions are nice and it's fine, I'll go with Armagh. But if it's windy and kind of heavy going, I'll go for Roscommon.
Yeah, interesting game in Prospect. I suppose, have you been impressed by David Burke so far at Roscommon? Obviously coming in, him and Mark McHugh, yeah.
I heard him last week. They're talking about a couple of his players. He's very raw, to say the least. But as I said, I think that's what players need. Salt of the earth, down to the earth kind of fella. Just says it as it is. I don't think the place for sensitivity in players is there anymore. I think managers just hard skinned, and it is what it is. And he's got his couple of results, a couple of bit of luck along the way as well has bought him. But he's been successful where he's been, and he's continued that so far in Roscommon, and who's to know where the road might close for them.
Absolutely, more absolutely. Supposed to wrap up. Who'll be your player to watch and bet of the weekend?
Player to watch and bet of the weekend. Bet of the weekend would be bet of the weekend. Ed O'Shea, man the match in the Kerry game. That's your bet. And player to watch, the guy from Kerry last week there that played,
Donny O'Sullivan.
Yeah, I think this is a big game for him to between him and O'Donoghue. You're going to get it from O'Donoghue, but it's a big pressure game, and I'd like to see what this young guy is all about on Saturday. His first game was very, very good, but you're up against a really, really good defence come this weekend, and that will tell a tale of if this guy is the next man to step up.
Super stuff. Well, I'll go with Roscommon to keep up the winning form and beat Armagh, and maybe Conor McCarthy to shoot out the lights in Clonus, but we'll wait and see this weekend. Conor Mortimer, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, the podcast is brought to you by yourgarage.com. Use the promo JMAC podcast to get 15% off on their website. Thank you very much, sir.
Good man, John. Talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.